Hello, everybody. I don't have a fancy introduction video yet. That will have to come later. This is episode 1. It's an experiment. So thanks for joining live or watching later. I'm Debbie Levitt, and welcome to all of the Delta CX community. And let's see if I can change these graphics. So today I'm just going to talk about something that's on my mind, and some people have also asked me to cover a couple of topics, so I'll do what I can. You can ask questions in the YouTube chat, and they should show up in my interface here. So definitely ask your questions. If you have any, I'll leave that banner up to remind you you can. So I've been asked about how UX and Agile can work together, and they definitely can. This is obviously a much longer talk and set of information that I have, but let's start with just some key points. There's two main areas where UX and Agile can work better and best together. One is on kind of the planning side. So at least in my experiences, very often UX has not been included in whatever you're calling it, product, project, portfolio, all of those places where we're planning features, roadmap, vision, epics, things like that. And even taking a look at the business strategy and what initiatives we should be creating so that we have product, services, and experiences that match what people need. And I find that very often UX, excuse me, this is just live, is left out of that. And normally it's product, maybe some business analysts who are going to write requirements, and it's a lot of the business. And very often I find UX is left out of that, but it's really important to bring UX into those discussions, into those meetings. Very often we are the key kind of shepherd of the voice of the customer and of what we know about the customers. Now, again, the quality of what we know about the customers comes from being allowed to do good research. So having the time, budget, headcount, and possibilities to do good research. So obviously there's lots of moving pieces here that are all tied together. I'm not working from a script. I hope you guys don't mind. So we really have to be part of some of those early conversations to make sure that we are shooting for products and features that have real customer value. You can also use the concept of minimum marketable feature to make sure that everything going into your project has some sort of value where marketing could market this, sales could sell it because it is a feature with customer value. So kind of the first half of getting this right and doing it better is including UX, CX, whatever you're calling people like me, in those early stages. Not so we can steamroll the thing, but so that we can be involved in a more collaborative way to take a look at what we're planning to build, why, what's the data surrounding it, do we need to spin up some research to validate or invalidate assumptions. We are definitely burning time and money and causing the company a lot of risk when we are building based on assumptions and guesses. So all the people who go, I know what the customer wants. Boo, you're only allowed to say that if you work in UX or CX and you've done a mountain of research to back that up. So anybody who says that, you need to have a mountain of data to back that up. So that's the first half of things. We've got a comment, so I'm just going to check this out. Product managers talk about customers, but there are people who are paying for the product or service. The end users may be different. What's your advice for PMs and designers? Thank you for a great question. So again, I will get back in a moment to the other half of where UX fits into Agile. Remind me if I forget. But the answer to that question, in my opinion, is very often what helps there is to have two sets of personas. If you're not familiar with personas, this is something CX and UX typically do, and it has to do with interviewing and sometimes observing lots of customers. When I do personas, I want to talk to at least 30 people if possible. And we get to know the customers, target customers. We kind of break them into archetypes, and then we create little personalities for them. So we look at not just their demographics, that's a little bit more marketing. We're looking at fears, habits, motivations, needs, things that can really help inspire our company to decide what to build for these people. It can help to have two sets of personas. One might be the buyer persona. Maybe there's somebody who is your customer who is more of the person who is paying for it, reviewing it, evaluating it, assessing it, doing the procurement if you're working with government and things like that. And then the The other people, the other set of personas might be the end user. Sometimes those are developers, QA, technical people, and obviously they have very different needs. Now, that probably means in this particular situation, you might be building the website a little bit more for the people who are doing the shopping and buying to appeal to the things they might be looking for, to learn about the product and why this is better than the competition. And then you have, of course, the product itself, which has to really be designed for those end users. And it's easy to mess those up. People think, well, these are the people who bought it. We've got to design it for them. Let's ask them what they want. That's bad in 62 different ways. So so I hope that answers that question. If not, please ask a follow-up question. And I'm gonna finish the other half of my thought and just talk a little bit about where else UX can fit into Agile, and I'll take another question that I see in the chat, but keep them coming. I'll do my best to shoot them down as I go. So the other half of where UX fits best into Agile is to get one CX or UX person on the Agile team. There are lots of methodologies, books, and training that say you don't need a UX person on the team, or they're an outside consultant, or you could just learn some UX engineers, just learn UX and do it yourself. Or, hey, we're all going to do UX as a team. We're just going to gather the knowledge of 6 to 10 people and we're just going to figure out UX. Not in my world. I don't do that to your job. Product managers, engineers, business analysts. That doesn't happen in your job, shouldn't happen in ours. So the best way for UX and Agile to really work together is to have one UX person, a CX person on the team representing all the UX and CX people. So the architects, designers, researchers, visual designers, data scientists, everybody can be represented by this one person. Copywriters. Camera blip. And so you don't have to put everybody on the team. You put one person, say me, on the team, and then I act as the go-between and run interference for all these people and make sure what they're delivering, everything goes both ways. And that means that we are planning releases with you. We are sprint planning with you. We are doing all these things. We're invited to meetings. We're attending the showcases. We might even have our own UX showcase, so we're not treading on engineering's time for the engineering showcase. We're part of Retro. We want to hear what we can do to make things better. We're collaborating. When I'm on an Agile team, I like to talk to engineering multiple times a week, not because I need their approval, but because I want to show them what I'm working on, ask them questions that will help me architect and design better, and then run with that information and bounce it off them. So again, there's a difference between getting someone's approval and collaborating and getting feedback, and I'm more in this boat. So this also means that where UX and Agile tend to go the wrongest, if I can make up a word, the most wrong, is when other people try to estimate our time. So I find that a lot of people don't truly understand UX, what it is, what we do, and that's even more muddied by a topic I'm sure we'll do in a future episode, things like design thinking and design sprints. They think, oh, UX, you guys just need a few days to do design thinking. No and no. So the problem is when people make assumptions about my tasks and my time and how I'm going to use it, then we run into problems, because I've gone into kickoff meetings where people have said, and this is the project, and UX, you have 2 days to get final wireframes. My thought was, hey, I've got a research, architect, test, iterate cycle, same like QA. We want QA to test things. We want UX to test things before they move forward. And they said, oh, you're derailing the project. So it would be so much better if UX and CX are involved in the planning phase, and then again at the release and sprint planning level, so that I can say to someone, hey, this is a pretty big project. I'm going to need 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks to do research, to do some early architecture and design work, to test that and iterate on it, and to get it ready so that it can be in the backlog for engineering. So we need to make sure that we're allowed to estimate our own time. Things are going wrong time-wise, budget-wise, work culture, when we don't. So that's kind of my short version of some UX and Agile stuff. I'm happy to take questions. And while you guys think of those questions, we do have another question. So thank you to someone who has asked the question. It says, I would like to know about how to start customer experience practices. Well, that's very big. I would love to hear more from that person about what you mean. So do you mean you're at a company now where maybe a lot of you are engineers and developers and there isn't someone working in CX or UX and you're looking to take that first step and maybe hire that first person? I'm going to start to answer the question from that perspective. But if that's not what you were asking, please write another chat message and clear it up so I can answer the right thing. But really, the best way to start a new CX practice at a company is, even if you only have the budget or the idea to start with one person, even if someone doesn't say, yeah, get 20 people in here, even if someone says, you know what, let's try that one person. And that person can be hired into your company. They can be a freelancer. They can be a contractor. They can be an outside agency. I'm okay with any of these things as long as you go with someone with great experience and expertise. Your first UX or CX hire should not be a junior or someone who is right out of school, because that person won't really know strategically what to do. There will be a lot of things that they haven't done yet. And so it's important to hire that veteran, that a person with more experience. And it doesn't matter if they're older or younger. The age doesn't matter. Sometimes experience happens to come with age, but we don't want to be ageist in either direction. We want to make sure we bring in that one magical person. And for a great case study on this, if for those of you who have my new book, Delta CX, you can see there is an interview with an agile coach. And she talked about how there were some UX people working at her company and they weren't really doing a great job. And what they did was they brought in three experienced freelancer experts, and those people were able to turn everything around and set everything going in the right direction. So I think there's really no substitute for bringing in someone with a lot of knowledge, expertise, someone who can approach things strategically, someone who's senior or higher. And in our world, senior is usually at least 5 or 6 years of experience. So again, juniors are great. We want to hire juniors and entry-level people, but that's normally in a case where our company has kind of leveled up their CX maturity to where we have a hierarchy, where there are juniors and seniors and maybe managers and leaders. And that way, the juniors who come in can get mentoring, work reviews, help with soft skills, help with presentations, help knowing how to fight battles with the people we sometimes have to fight with. So for the person who asked that question, super question, let me know if I've somewhat addressed it or if you have a follow-up question. I'm taking questions on absolutely any topic. So if you're here, thanks to the handful of people who are here watching live and those tuning in later more as a podcast. Okay, so the question is, I'm a visual designer. I would like to start CX practice to gain expertise. So those of you who are looking to transition into doing CX and UX work, the best way, in my opinion, is to find a really good course and a really good mentor. I think both of these can work together really well. There's a course out there that I like a lot. I don't get paid to say this. They offered me money and I said, no, I want to recommend you guys. I don't want to be paid. They're at uxdesigninstitute.com. UX design, I can put that on the screen. Give me a moment to type that up. Let's see. So that's UX Design Institute. I hope I spell it right. Institute. That's always a hard word to type. uxdesigninstitute.com. Let's put that up on the screen. And I have friends who are going through that course and they seem to like it. What I liked about it when I reviewed it, now I didn't take the course and I don't teach the course, but what I liked about it was pretty much completely focused on CX and UX. So it wasn't just, oh, here's some visual design and a couple of things to know about UX. UX Design Institute. I think I spelled that right. Check it out. I think they're in Ireland or Scotland. I apologize that I can't remember. And I liked that their course was very focused on specifically UX stuff. On the research side, on the design side, on the testing side, you really get a nice broad look at UX, which not only will give you a little bit of knowledge in a number of areas, but will also let you test the waters and see which part of UX you might like more, you might be better at, you might want to learn more about. The course runs about 6 months and it runs around 2,000 American dollars. I know for some people that's very expensive and is not going to be possible. And I know for some people that's very inexpensive compared to some of the other courses that are out there that cost 10,000 American dollars or more. So I'm currently recommending uxdesigninstitute.com. That is an unpaid recommendation. I do still recommend that you get a mentor because a lot of their uh, um, education material is kind of self-paced and videos. And so also great if you can have a mentor who can take a look at your work and work more closely with you on that. Outside of that, I don't have a lot of suggestions right now. Most of the trade schools out there, I believe, are not teaching the right things. They're teaching more visual design than UX. And these are very different things. And I can tell you they're very different things because I'm a terrible artist. So those of you who think, oh, UX, everybody's an artist, they're all artsy fartsy. I can promise you, I have a degree in music. I'm a terrible artist. So there's a lot of these courses that are teaching a lot of visual design and aesthetics and not so much of UX, which is more scientific and based in cognitive psychology. So it's not about aesthetics. It's about how people think and behave and act and being able to predict what they'll do. So that's where I would start. I would love to plug my book there, but I don't really have a lot of advice for starting a CX career other than get a good mentor and get a good foundational education. Those are my suggestions for starters. So let me know if you have a follow-up question to that. Thank you. We have another question, which is, there's a belief that design can't be remote. I was going to try to hold this to 15 minutes. Now you guys are asking everything. Can designers and UX be remote? And I would say absolutely, because I started my company in 1995. And for most of the last almost 25 years, I've been remote. Excuse me. This podcast is brought to you by watermelon flavored water. They didn't pay for that. I just love this stuff. It's available on Amazon. I get it. What's a company called? True Lemon? I forgot. Anyway, they're not paid. Just love them. Makes water even more delicious. So I believe very, very strongly that UX and designers can be remote, and in many cases should be remote. There's a bit of an incorrect idea or thought that UX, you guys like to come into offices and whiteboard stuff. And I go, not just me. I mean, yes, I'll whiteboard stuff, but I also watch engineers whiteboard stuff. Yet nobody thinks twice about sending engineering work to other countries, whether that's going south, east, west, wherever it is. Many of you work for that. So you work for companies like that. So somehow we have no problem sending engineering remote. I've seen product managers be remote, but we still think UX has to come into the office. And I think that's just part of UX being so misunderstood. I mean, if you went to your average stakeholder or executive and you ask them, what do these UX people do? They'd probably be like, I don't know, they draw boxes on pages and make things pretty for us. So while we're so misunderstood, it seems like we better have these people in the office and watch over them and tell them what to do. But in my book, I lay out a number of reasons why we should definitely be hiring for remote, not only because there are lots of studies that say remote workers are more productive, they're happier, they balance their lives better, but also because, as I say in the book, there are so many people that live in remote places. They're outside of cities. Yes, they have internet, but they're outside of cities, and they could never afford to live where you've your office. Even when I lived outside of San Francisco, it was wildly expensive. And eventually I just had to say, I'm getting out of here. And I did move away from San Francisco. And now that's made it harder for me to get jobs. And that's so strange because I'm still the same me. And I got to the point in San Francisco where people were giving me jobs without interviewing me. They were just like, we saw what you've done. We've heard about you, blah, blah, blah. When can you come in? And that's pretty amazing. That was exciting. I don't say that to be ego-y. I say that to make the point of, now that I've moved away, I can't find work. I mean, luckily I have my own agency, and sometimes my agency has work to do, and I do a lot of speaking and training, and some of that is paid. So I'm still eating food. But if I were to try to find a regular job right now, very few are remote. Some of them are ageist when they figure out how old I am. I'm 47. And some of them just think, nah, we're in Australia. Debbie's living in, Europe. I now live in Europe, but I spend a lot of time in America because of all my clients and speaking. So I kind of bounce between the two. And so I don't want that. I don't want that for anybody. I don't want that for people in any country. I don't want that for people in Eastern Europe. I don't want that for people in Canada. I don't want that for people in India. I don't want that for people in Australia. My belief is that remote work is a great fit for most people. Not all. Some people struggle with it, but for most people, I believe it is the way to go. And let's see. Let me put up this banner. I'm playing with this little system I've got here. So what about Interaction Design Foundation? I run hot and cold on Interaction Design Foundation. They do have some good materials there, but I also find that they are jumping on buzzwords and bandwagons and hottest trends. And UX should never be something that's about trends. We're really about things that are part of cognitive psychology, and cognitive psychology doesn't change too much. I mean, it's evolving a little bit in that we've had to think about people's attention span with screens, but it doesn't change. So there are things I like about Interaction Design Foundation, but I wish they weren't talking about design thinking and design sprints and some of these things that most UX professionals and specialists don't do. So I would say just avoid all that design thinking stuff, because design thinking and what I do to some people is the same thing, and to some people is not the same thing. And with a definition that messy, we probably need to move away from it. Somebody has a question. Oh, when will my book come? The book is out. The book was out about 2 weeks ago. You can go to Amazon.com and you can just search Delta CX. I don't have a graphic for that. I'm still working on making these things. But if you search for Delta CX, or if you go to the Delta CX website and you go to the books page, there will be a link from there. It is available in Kindle and as a paperback, though next week I'll be relaunching the paperback in a different size, because some of the people who bought the early copies suggested I size it a little differently. So it is a paperback, new size coming soon. Question. Transforming from designer to design leader. What should I focus on? Okay, so first of all, I tend to think that people aren't really design leaders again until they've had some good experience at a senior or principal level. So that means probably 6 or more years experience. If you have fewer than 5 or 6 years experience, I would say you're probably not ready for too much leadership. If you were working for me, maybe I would test out a couple of things to see what you're ready for and what you're not. But when you talk about leadership, I assume you mean either a lead UX position, or maybe a manager or a junior manager. And obviously, so in many companies, lead UX is still very much a practitioner. You're doing the work, but you might be overseeing some other people's work. You're not really their manager, someone else is their manager, but you oversee their work. You might be mentoring juniors, and that's a great place to start. And if you are in that space and you're a great teacher, you're a great mentor, you're super patient, you know the right things to say, you have high empathy, you can start doing those things without it being your job title. If you're in a senior job title and there's a brand new entry-level person there, see how you can help them. And of course, put on your UX hat, find out from them what kind of help they need. Don't just throw stuff at them. And so I think one way to work into that is to just start doing it a little bit here and there, where it's welcomed, where it's wanted, where it's okay, and starting to perfect it, because it's something that for you might even change over time. How you mentor someone in your first year of mentoring might be different from a couple of years from now, where you've got a little bit of a better rhythm and idea of how to approach different problems juniors have. So I think you kind of become a leader by becoming a leader. And if you feel like you're ready for that, see if there's opportunities at work to start doing some of those things, even if it's not in your job description, even if it's not in your title, even if you're not being paid extra for it. Start shifting into that, and hopefully it'll go well. You'll learn a little bit, and the managers at your company will see you being that leader. And I think that could help you move to the next step. So thank you there. Okay, that person got their question in. If anyone wants to buy it from India, it can be 2 to 3 weeks for my book to be delivered. That is unfortunately true right now. It is unfortunately true right now that I think Amazon is printing the paper versions in America and then shipping them to India. In a few weeks, I'm going to have an option where you can buy a signed hardcover directly from me. I'll be shipping that from Europe. It's not going to be cheaper, but it's going to be a limited edition and it'll come from Europe, so hopefully a little cheaper. That'll be another option. Otherwise, I suggest save trees, save paper, get the Kindle version. We're coming up on 25 minutes when I thought this might be about 15, so maybe we'll try to cut this off at 30 minutes, but that probably means I have time for maybe one more question or possibly a second. So if any of you who asked questions have a follow-up, I'm happy to take it, or if anyone has a new question, please put it up there. And again, you can always visit deltacx.com to learn more about what the book is about and where I'm going with some of my adventures. But mostly the book is about burning down what's going wrong in the UX and CX industry and building up what we should be doing instead. Because if you work in this area, you know that there's a lot that's going wrong. And a lot of it we will be able to control and improve. It's not just happening to us or around us, but we can definitely improve these things. And so I set out to write the book that can be the model that everyone can use to create a better CX and UX company, department, team, project, individual, really at all levels. So again, sorry that the paper book is slow to India. I can't control that. This comes from Amazon. So again, if anybody has any questions, we'll just run for a few more minutes. So let me know if there are any questions or comments. And but thanks to everybody for tuning into the live version, as well as those watching later in the pre-recorded version. And I will start winding it down if I don't see any other questions in the coming seconds. And as for when is the next one, I don't know. I'm going to try to do these somewhat randomly, and I'll be doing them from different places in the world as I travel. I have a lot of travel coming up for speaking. I do a lot of private corporate training, both for UX teams and non-UX teams to help non-UX teams understand UX and how we can work better together. That's been a really effective training. I love doing that. It's called DevOps ICU, as in intensive care unit. So I'm going to be running around Europe and America, probably into early December. So you'll just have to check LinkedIn or join our Slack group. There's a link from the website to join the Slack group. That's totally free. And I'll put the Delta CX back up. Let's see, this is a fun little system that lets me put graphics up. Oh, you're asking the longest question possible. We're gonna have to save that for the next episode. The question is, design thinking is being used left, right, and center, and people seem to read short posts and believe they're design thinkers. Well, if you've been following me on LinkedIn or if you've read any of the book, you know that I'm not a fan of design thinking for a number of reasons, mostly because nobody can seem to agree on what the definition of it is. Is it a mindset? Is it a paradigm? Is it a process? Is it the process I'm using? Is it a different process? It's a little muddy right now, and even for that, I feel like it's lost its power. But I understand that it's being used right now as the main kind of approach to UX evangelism, and people feel like, well, I'm getting people to talk about design. And I would go, yeah, but are they talking about the right aspects of design? So I would say, let's hold that for our next episode, which maybe I'll try to whip up next week, and we will talk about design thinking and what the heck it is, if we can figure it out, and what's good about it and what's bad about it, and what do I suggest we do instead. So thank you so much again for those who joined, and see you online on LinkedIn, on the Slack channel, and watch my posts for another one of these next week. Probably same messy hair and same no makeup. So enjoy the natural look you don't get if you meet me at a conference. So or my LinkedIn picture, which is a little photoshopped. So thanks again to everybody. Have a super weekend, or whatever day it is for you watching this, and we'll wrap it up now. So have a great day. Thanks. See you around.